thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Dane Chenery Show, and I'm your host, Dane Chenery. You know, there are some big changes going on at Brookline Interactive, formerly known as Brookline Access Television. And this evening on The Dane Chenery Show, we have its executive director, Kathy Bigsby. Please welcome my guest to the show, Kathy Bigsby.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. What's going on at Big? Now, first, let's talk about the name change.
Yeah.
It was Brookline Access Television, and now it's called Big.
Brookline Interactive.
Right.
That's right. So it happened before I came on board, actually. The board and the staff decided to make a big change. And there's, you know, we keep making that pun over and over again. Big changes are definitely happening here. You know, part of it is that the industry as a whole, community media, has really changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. Really, it's been 10 years since YouTube.
Wow.
Which is hard to believe. This is the 10th anniversary of YouTube. And since YouTube came on the scene, things really were a little different for community media. So our name change, along with some of the changes that we've made here at Big, are reflecting that post-YouTube reality that we live under now.
Wow. Now, let's talk about growing up, because I understand that you came from a town that was full of 400 citizens.
400 citizens, yeah.
Wow.
And it was a dead-end town in western Maine. So you would drive to the town, and then you'd have to turn around and come back. Or you could hike to Canada.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know that was the only way to get there.
It's the only way to get there.
So
Absolutely.
growing up in that type of environment, what were some of the things that you took away from it?
Well, I think I came from a pretty humble beginning. My family was low income, actually, and but also very focused on community service. My father was a YMCA director for most of my life, and I was very lucky to get to participate in all those programs. And we didn't have a building Y because we were so rural, but he went from gymnasium to gymnasium all around a couple of counties and really provided activities for the youth in my community and many others. So I grew up with that. My mom was an English teacher. And, you know, I think growing up with the two of them, they were filled with creative idealism, really young and very excited about what they could do in the world. And I really got a glimpse into that at an early age. And they really influenced me quite a bit, more so even than growing up in that environment. I didn't have a television until I was 16. Which is kind of ironic that I've now run media centers and television stations.
Now, that's what I find so fantastic. I mean, why did you decide to go into this line of work?
Well, there's actually, I've realized there's kind of a story that started it all. When I was in 8th grade, I was actually in the vocational track. I didn't know if I was going to go to college or not.
Really?
I was, yeah. And you know, I've sort of been thinking lately, I might have been, you know, had I been a few years younger when they started testing for ADHD, I might have qualified.
No.
I might have, yes. I was, you know, kind of all over the place as a kid, and I was interested in everything, and I was very excitable, and you know, I had a teacher, I had a couple teachers, Mrs. Summers and Mrs. Perry, who influenced me really quite a bit. Mrs. Perry was actually my social studies teacher who kind of brought in things from around the world and made me realize that there was a world outside of my small town in western Maine, and I was very, very interested in that.
Well, how did you end up from a town of 400 citizens to California?
Yeah.
That's a big, I mean, that's a big leap.
It is, it is. Well, I was 22 years old and I finished college. I had an opportunity to travel during college, so I spent a 6-month stint in France and went to school and took all my classes in French and loved that.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui, but now I speak Spanish, so whenever I try to speak French, je m'appelle français, but I start to speak Spanish after about a sentence. I'm going to be back on the East Coast. I think I'm starting to think maybe I should practice my French again, go to Quebec. I spent a summer in Quebec City working for the YMCA also, so I mostly speak Quebecois. And then I went to Wyoming for a year and studied journalism there. And I had a teacher who said, Bisbee, my last name Bisbee, you're going to go cover the football game. And I said, no, I'm a baseball fan. I don't like football. There's just a bunch of drunk people. And he said, oh, do you have a better idea? And I said, yeah, you know, there's this thing called AIDS, and I think we should do a story about it in Wyoming. And he looked at me, and this was a Dick Cheney fan. He said, yeah, there's no gay people in Wyoming. And I looked at him, and the next day I quit all of my classes. well, actually I flunked them because I didn't go back.
Right.
I quit. I left the journalism program entirely, and I started my own underground newspaper. I was so incensed by the fact that he had said this and his ignorance about what was going on in our community. And I started my own newspaper. I competed with his newspaper. And we were successful in getting a lot of advertisers to support the paper. And we had a clandestine lab in the University of Wyoming where we were using X-Acto knives to print the paper. And so that was kind of I think my roots of community media. I was very excited about the openness on both the geographic level and also the emotional level and the energetic level in Wyoming and in the West.
Right.
And then I also really liked that people had some radical ideas out there that I hadn't heard in New England. So I was very excited about that. And I came back to New England and then soon set out on quite an adventure at 22, across country, 6 months. Whenever my car would break down, I would stop and get a job and work for a month or so. And then I finally made it to California with a $20 bill in my pocket and my dog and everything I owned with me. So, the last 22 years have been really incredible. I've had wonderful opportunities. I've worked as a community organizer and as an activist. I worked with the United Farm Workers. I worked with many, many different groups within the Latino community. I've had opportunities to travel to Latin America and work on films there. And then I worked in the tech industry for 13 years.
You worked almost in every type of industry that has anything to do with media,
it's true.
Media production.
And communications, absolutely.
Fantastic, though. So this makes this being here, the executive director, a fantastic thing.
Absolutely. And I had an opportunity after I worked in the tech industry to go into community media. I was actually a producer, and I was producing independent social documentaries in Latin America. I produced a film about coffee harvesting with my, I was actually the line producer. In Guatemala.
In Guatemala, okay.
Yeah. And I actually was the line producer on that with my film partner, and then he and I worked on a film together called Don't Cost Nothing to Dream. Yes. And it's about youth in Cuba, Nicaragua, and Guatemala who are using music as an instrument of hope and change in their communities. And we were very fortunate. We had 25 days in Latin America. We shot in 3 countries and many languages because Guatemalans, their native language is not Spanish. No. There's 16 recognized languages in Guatemala, dialects of the indigenous people there, but there's quite a few more. Wow. And so we had kids hip-hopping, rapping in Cochical, which is one of the Guatemalan indigenous dialects. Cuban is not Spanish. It's very hard to understand. So we came back to the States, and then we were able to translate and spent 5 years editing it, and then took it to some film festivals and won a few small awards.
Wow. Yeah. Now that's absolutely exciting to actually work on documentaries like that. I mean, you have a strong belief from what I've read and I understand about people have this innate right to be able to have free speech.
Absolutely, absolutely. My great grandfather was a signer of the Declaration of the Independence.
John Hart.
John Hart. Wow, you are good. Wow, you do your homework. You really do. Yeah. So that's on my mom's family, and so I kind of grew up with that. Being talked about. And I think growing up in New England, I think much more so than California, we really grow up here with an understanding of what freedom really means in this country and how hard our ancestors fought for it. Exactly.
Did you notice that when you were in Guatemala? I mean, could you see the difference?
Well, definitely, Latin America is it's every cult. There's many cultures inside of Latin America as well. But even just between California and here, California is so much younger than New England, and so if you grow up here, you really learn a lot about the history of this country. And I love history and I love people really. So I love hearing people's stories all around the world.
Now you've worked also with a lot of different municipalities as well.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that work and how that folds into the work that you're doing here.
Well, one of the things, so when I came out of the tech industry, I came into community media, and I was an executive director for started with one community media center in Gilroy. I worked with 7 different municipalities there.
And you had 5 television stations in Gilroy?
We had 2 stations. We had 5 channels.
5 channels.
5 channels at CMAP, Community Media Access Partnership, which is my first station I started with in 2008.
Okay.
While I was finishing grad school, actually, at the same time for marketing and PR. And That station, you know, we had lost our funding. There's in 23 states around the country, there are bills that were introduced and passed by the cable companies with the intention of undermining the local funding that's being received to really protect freedom of speech and hyper-local community media. And also, you know, we're allowing these cable companies to use our public right-of-way.
Right.
So they're making millions of dollars in profit on that. And one of the things that we think is that if they're not paying for rent on the airwaves, the public airwaves, they should give something back to the community. So Congress, about 25, 30 years ago, passed this legislation that would support media centers like Big getting started and being able to have a presence and having the opportunities that we provide for people to come in and have their own television show. And to really, in many cases, move on to major networks having their shows, which I hope happens to you someday.
Oh, that's very, thank you.
I think it could happen.
That is kind of you to say. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You heard that from Miss Kathy Bigsby. So getting here, and did you see a lot that needed to get done or wanted to get done? I mean, did you have this like set agenda?
Well, no, but you have to understand a little bit about the environment that I was in California.
Okay.
I feel a little survivor guilt, honestly, coming from California, where we were one of the 23 states affected by the cable company's laws that took away our operating funding. So my station in Gilroy, we lost our operating funding, and then I was asked to come over and run a second station an hour away, which is close in California. I know for Massachusetts that seems like really
Forever.
far. Yeah. You know, it's like the next town over. It's like, you know, for us it'd be like Newton and Brookline. It's an hour away. So yeah, it's more regional there. We don't have the local form of government the way that is really, I think, institutionalized in New England. And so it's a little more regional. So they asked us to come over and run their center because they were in danger of losing their contract. And you know, didn't have operating funds. And so we had to really think outside of the box. So my tech industry experience really helped me with that. We had an amazing team that I worked with to really save that station so that we wouldn't lose the community's voice in Santa Cruz, which is a very strong liberal, progressive community that is a little bit like Brookline, actually, in terms of wanting to really have a voice and having some great academics and intelligence and people who are really doing amazing things in the world.
Do you think that is largely because of the fact that these cable providers have such deep pockets that they have tons of lawyers?
They do. They do. And we saw in California in 2006, you know, they were up there lobbying all the time. I mean, I'm doing lobby day once a year in DC. I'm doing, you know, a lobby day in California where some people are coming from 9 hours away. That's how big the state is.
Wow.
You know, it's 14 hours by car to go up and down. It's really huge. And so, you know, it's difficult to organize people. And I think one benefit that we have here in Massachusetts is that we're closer and people know what's going on. You know, my colleagues in community media, we call each other up and say, so how are you guys doing payroll? Or what kind of programs are you running for youth? And we talk to each other. And we did that in California, really actually having that law pass and be so detrimental to us. I actually built a 7-station collaborative so that we could talk to each other. And we built some programs together and helped support each other so that we wouldn't have to shut our doors. So that's the reality that I'm coming from. And so when I came into Big, I thought, oh my gosh, it's like the land of milk and honey in Massachusetts.
Wow.
You know? We have community media funding that's somewhat protected here. But what I also saw was, you know, all these amazing programs that Big has offered over the years also have provided value to the community, and the community is more than willing to provide some funding back to Big. And so we're doing that. We're asking people for donations. We're going to be doing our first ever fundraising campaign next year. So we're just building up to that. We're asking people to go out and be ambassadors for us, which you have agreed to do.
Yes,
Thank you
I
so
have.
much.
Between Two Ferns.
Between Two Ferns.
Now, some people may not understand.
Yeah, it's
but
kind of
can
a
you
joke.
explain a little bit about
Sure.
this? For people who don't understand what Between Two Ferns is, could you show us a little bit?
So it's a little bit of a joke. Zach Galifianakis, the comedian, has a show on. It's actually a web show. I think it's all webisodes. There's a great one if you just look up Between Two Ferns. If you Google it, President Obama. It's a hilarious, very deadpan interview. He's so funny. And he's really making fun of the sort of the old school public access. You know, you'll notice we don't have any ferns on this show today.
No, that's because it's my set. And
exactly.
They do a great job at this studio, I want to let you know. So Between Two Ferns is like this kind of fundraising ambassador, go out and tell the community?
Exactly. We kind of hope Zach might find out about it and might, like, you know, send us a cease and desist or want to be on our show, actually. But the idea is to raise awareness, and we thought, oh, with something funny like that, that's sort of a play on the old school public access show. It might be interesting and humorous to people, but it's really a community engagement strategy.
Okay.
So a lot of times people will come in and they'll say, oh, I want to make a TV show, and that's great. We want to encourage that. We've got tons of programs. If you want to make a TV show, come make a TV show. We can help you do that. But we also sometimes, we're really good at helping other people tell their stories and providing them the tools and the resources to tell them their stories. But sometimes we don't tell our own story very well in community media. I was on the national board for our industry, and I saw this all the time. People were doing
4 years there?
I did. Yes, I did. And it was, you know, really inspiring to get to know all these other media centers around the country and hear what they were doing. They're doing amazing work. But a lot of times, because we're so busy helping other people tell their stories, we forget that we need to tell our stories.
Right.
Or if we tell our stories, we talk about, oh, we've got this amazing facility, and oh, you should come in and make a TV show. But really, what's at the heart of the work that we're doing is actually major social change work. Oh. It really is. You know, we are helping people transform their experience in the world by hearing other people's experiences that often are underrepresented in corporate media. We're helping people come in and have an opportunity to express their voice, to express their creativity. We're giving people a physical space in this post-YouTube world where there's not physical spaces for the arts and for media arts and for free speech. We're really kind of the last bastion of free speech.
Well, I would agree. And the other piece of it is there are so many organizations that don't have the opportunity that Big provides.
Absolutely. And a lot of nonprofits actually come in and ask us to help them with their communications plans. They don't know how to make a YouTube video. Sometimes their staff aren't necessarily trained on how to capture videos or how to capture the stories. So I've even done trainings for nonprofits on how to do press work and how to do media work and how to talk to the press and how to tell your stories. And so we're doing that for ourselves right now with this Between Two Ferns campaign.
Wow.
And it's going to be really interesting. We did our first one last night, actually, and we're having 10 people, very intimate at each one. Folks are welcome to come in. We'll have it on our website, but it's
the website is
brooklineinteractive.org.
Okay.
And it's really focused on how individuals' lives are being changed and transformed by the resources, the training programs, and the leadership that you get out of working like this with a big team of people who are all having special talents and learning and growing together. And some people want to be on camera, some people would rather be behind the camera. And we help people realize that dream and realize their creative expression. But we're also teaching people job skills in the 21st century world.
Not only job skills, I mean, that are transferable to any television station. So that's...
And not just television, anything.
But everything from Web Divine to...
And,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Are you enjoying it?
I love it. I love this community. I have to say, it reminds me a little bit of Santa Cruz minus the beach. But I've been running up to the top of the big hills in town and looking over the city, and so that's really lovely. And yeah, the team here is amazing. The board and the staff here are very capable, and I think it's going to be exciting. We're rolling out a lot of new projects and products this summer. We've got a Storyvox program that has not been launched yet. Okay. So this is the first place to hear about it.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
So that's going to be capturing stories of the community at community events at the farmers market and at Recreations concerts on their Wednesday night series. So we're very excited about that. We're starting a new news program and a citizen journalism program where people can actually come in and be part of making the news.
Okay. You're doing something with K through 8 as well.
We are. Yes, we've kicked out a huge K through 8 program. We've always done a lot of education programs. We have a partnership with the school district. So there's two big initiatives this year on education. One is that on October 24th, we're doing an Innovation in Education Summit, and we'll be talking about very out-of-the-box kind of thinking around media and technology and education. So we're going to invite the whole community to come, especially teachers, but we'll have youth panels as well. I'm very excited about that. And then
youth panels.
Youth panels. So they'll be talking about what are their needs as students.
Okay.
Because what we're seeing in education is a lot of youth-led classes.
Wow.
And youth using media and technology. And so we're very excited about that. And then our K through 8 program, we have been teaching movie makers and classes through adult ed and through recreation, but we're also teaching out at school sites ourselves. Okay. So we have programs that we've developed, claymation and photojournalism and stop motion. One of my passions is youth, so I'm very excited that we're going to be able to offer this. We are offering it. Steps for Success is a big partner of ours as well.
Now, I'm sorry, what is Steps for Success?
It's a program through the school district. They're an independent organization that works through the school district, and they work with at-risk and low-income youth in Brookline. Wow. And it's a program that's really moving kids through job training and vocational training and getting them into college. They said today at their event that they had 16 high school students that are going on to college. So it's a wonderful program for us to partner with.
You won an award today, from my understanding.
We did. Yeah, we did. Not me personally.
Let's hear about that.
Oh, thank you. It was very lovely. I just went to their event, and they wanted to honor the partnership that they have with us, and it works both ways. It's a wonderful partnership for us as well to have young people in here learning how to use media tools and working as a team, learning leadership skills. And hopefully inspiring them, like my teacher did with me, to go on to college.
Right.
And to think about what are the opportunities in the world. And, you know, it is a project-based world out there, and you're working with people from all different cultures and backgrounds. So this is great experience for someone to come in. And it's also, just like for me, I don't think I was a really traditional learner. I did well academically, but I was
you got a master's.
Did I mention
but you know
what? But I wasn't always that kid. I'm definitely academically driven as a child even, but I was very kinetic. And I grew up on a farm, so I had that experience of being physical. I was always out doing stuff. And I have a lot of energy, so I have to find places and drive.
And passion.
Yeah.
That's where
I do. Thanks to my parents. They really inspired me to, do whatever you want to do, and we'll support you. And not that they had a lot of resources to do that, but boy, they definitely taught me how to just go for what you want all the time.
And believe in yourself.
And believe in myself, and know that, my dad is always saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. So ask people for what you want, be direct, and try things. My dad at what was he? I think he was 68. He made his own movie.
Really?
My dad had a public access show up in Maine, actually.
Now, were you the impetus for this public?
I don't think so. I don't think I had anything to do with it, actually.
Really?
No. He decided to get a camera. He wrote this. He called me one day in California, and he said, "I wrote this script for this." This movie. And I said, "You're going to make a movie?" Okay. I thought I was the movie maker. Okay, cool, And he made it, one camera, and he would do all 3 shots, and then he learned a few things, I think, at public access up there as well. So, community media is a wonderful place to get your start, and we see young people and older people going on to filmmaking careers and working in Hollywood.
Wow, that is absolutely fantastic. It sounds like you really are driven to make sure that people do have that voice, and that they're able to have a mechanism in which to get it out there.
Absolutely.
And I think that's fantastic. We're going to have to take a moment for our sponsors. Yeah, but if you just give us one moment. Hey, keep it locked. We're sitting with Kathy Bigsby, the Executive Director of BIG, Brookline Interactive Group. We're going to be right back. Thanks for watching.
The Cambridge Real Estate Collaborative is a proud supporter of the Dane Shinnery Show. Please consider our real estate institution if you have ever dreamed of a career in the lucrative and fast-paced field of real estate. Whether you're just joining the field as a sales agent or desire becoming a broker, in need of continuing educational hours, or just polishing up your real estate skills, we offer a full range of training and educational services to fit your needs. Also, take advantage of our 5% discount for the Dane Shinnery Show viewers by going to our website, www.thecambridgerealestatecollaborative.com, and entering the code DANE.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank our sponsors. We are sitting with the Executive Director, Kathy Bigsby of BIG, Brookline Interactive Group, and we're going to close out the show with talking about what you see coming up next for BIG.
Well, you know, I was talking a little bit about some of the things we had to do in California, and I was describing to you when we were off camera about, I felt like in California we were building the airport, the runway, as we were landing the plane. And luckily, here at BIG, we have a lot more time. We haven't even had the airplane take off quite yet. So we can build the runway for kind of the new model for community media. We're really excited about innovating here. We have the resources and the opportunities and a wonderful community to do it in. So this fall, looking ahead, we'll be going through our renegotiation with Comcast.
Well, that's a big thing.
It's a really big thing.
That's a big thing.
It's a big thing. And we want to make sure that they hear from the community that in Brookline, community media is really important to them.
Yes.
That free speech is important, and having these amazing resources is something that the Brookline community is not going to let go easily. So we're going to ask people to come out at the ascertainment hearing, as it's called, which will be a public hearing.
And I'd like to thank you for watching. You've been watching The Dane Chenery Show. If you miss a minute, you miss a lot. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
And we're out.